I'm Joanna Small, the Public Information Officer for the Commerce City Police Department. It's Tuesday, January 20th, and these are your holiday weekend high or low lights, depending on how you look at it. It's essentially our video blotter where we give you a rundown of the most significant incidents your CCPD patrol officers responded to over the weekend. But we always like to start these off with a few fast facts. We answered 298 calls for service, and our traffic team made 95 traffic stops just on Saturday and Sunday. Now here are those highlights in chronological order. On Thursday, officers responded to the 7,000 block of East 56th Avenue for a burglary that had occurred at a business overnight on January 14th. The suspects fastened a chain to the front door of the business and ripped it open using a vehicle to gain entry. Based on surveillance footage, we believe that vehicle to be an early 2000 model Chevy Tahoe with black and silver rims. Unfortunately, the thieves were all wearing masks, hoods, and gloves. They stole high-value concrete equipment tools worth tens of thousands of dollars. If you think you recognize the suspect vehicle or know anything about this crime, call our tip line at the number that's listed there on your screen. Overnight Thursday, officers were sent to East 92nd Avenue and Yosemite Street for a vehicle that had slid into the river there. The driver was trapped inside the vehicle, and South Adams County firefighters responded for a water rescue. They successfully extricated the driver from the vehicle, and they were transported to the hospital for a medical evaluation. Great work by our first responder partners. On Friday, officers responded to the 7100 block of Quebec Street for an assault in progress. When they arrived, they located the victim, but the two suspects had fled the scene. All three involved parties were determined to be juveniles, and the fight was believed to be gang-related. The victim was transported to the hospital via ambulance and was diagnosed with serious bodily injury. Officers later took the two suspects into custody at their respective residences, and they're facing second-degree assault charges. You likely saw this next incident posted about on our social media platforms. Overnight Friday, a Colorado State Patrol trooper pulled over a vehicle for speeding and discovered a gravely injured passenger inside it. Unfortunately, medical personnel were unable to save her, and she was pronounced dead at that scene. Our officers learned the driver had been involved in a hit-and-run crash in our city earlier in the night, which severely injured his passenger. He had then driven his heavily damaged vehicle home, switched cars, and was allegedly attempting to take his passenger to the hospital when he was stopped by the trooper. He was arrested for vehicular homicide, reckless driving, leaving the scene of an accident causing death, and reckless driving. On Saturday, an observant CCPD patrol officer attempted to make a traffic stop on a careless driver in the 6200 block of Glencoe Street. The driver did stop, but then fled on foot and was trying to enter a nearby apartment complex when officers caught and detained him. They noticed he had thrown something while fleeing, and we recovered a plastic bag containing methamphetamine. The suspect was also found to have 5 outstanding warrants for his arrest. He was taken into custody on the warrants and faces new charges for unlawful possession of a controlled substance. Overnight Saturday, officers responded to a robbery at a business in the 7100 block of Quebec Street. A white man wearing a black hoodie with white lettering on the front, a black ski mask, and black pants and shoes walked into the store with a trash bag and began putting merchandise into that bag. When confronted by an employee, the suspect lifted his shirt and revealed a pistol. The suspect then fled the store. We have assigned a detective to this case for further investigation. On Sunday, officers were sent to the area of East 96th Avenue and Potomac Street for a possible DUI driver a citizen had called into 911. We located the vehicle, which was swerving, and we initiated a traffic stop. Officers determined the driver was intoxicated, and he also had an outstanding warrant for DUI. He was arrested for the warrant and faces new charges for driving under the influence, driving under restraint, having no insurance, and no current registration. The suspect claimed he had been assaulted earlier in another jurisdiction, so he was transported to the hospital. Thank you to the concerned community member who alerted us to this dangerous driver. Overnight Sunday, officers were at the hospital with the aforementioned suspect when he became uncooperative and refused to follow commands to remain in the hospital bed. While officers were working to restrain him, he kicked one of our officers in the stomach. So now he's additionally facing charges for second-degree assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, and assault in the third degree. Also overnight Sunday, officers responded to a shots-fired call in the area of East 56th Avenue and Vasquez Boulevard. The victim advised someone in a vehicle had shot into their vehicle. Officers located what appeared to be a fresh bullet hole in the rear bumper of the victim's vehicle. The victim did have a vague suspect vehicle description, but no license plate. This incident is still being investigated. And finally, overnight Monday, officers were sent to a felony menacing with a gun that stemmed from a road rage incident. The suspect had apparently become upset with the victim while both were backing out of parking spots in the 5800 block of Quebec Street. The suspect got out of his vehicle and waved a handgun toward the victim. The victim fled the scene but called us and was able to provide a suspect license plate information. Using our camera technology, we located the suspect vehicle and arrested the suspect as he was exiting a store. We located a gun on the front passenger seat of his vehicle. He is facing aggravated felony menacing with a gun charges. Great work, Patrol. That's all for now. We'll see you next time. Have a safer week, Commerce City, and remember, if you need us, we are always just minutes away.